Top of the morning to you. It's Clarity ZL God. I hope you're having a wonderful morning. And I am still trying to figure out my body schedule with just a different work shift. Some nights I'm off and some nights I'm on. And some of my sleep patterns are all funny. But I'm happy to be awake this morning. I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy to know the Most High God. I'm happy to be in good health. I'm happy to be in strength. I'm happy for family and friends and loved ones. And I'm even wishing well for enemies and so-called or whatever. I don't, just how the adage goes. But even those who I don't know or those who I may not be in good quarters with or whatever you want to call it, I wish the grace and love of God upon you all, everyone here. And, it's just a good time to be alive. It's a good time to get to know the Lord, to know the one who really cares for you, the one that framed you and formed you and knows you inside and out, more than your lover, more than your parents, more than people who are really close to you and familiar with you. The one who formed you knows you better. The angels who are assigned to you know you better. And the enemy who's assigned to you knows you better. And that's why the attacks are so great on some of the lives that are listening. It's just an assignment against you because of the assignment for you. You got to realize that. And I want to share a few verses that I hope will encourage your faith in the area of just protecting your mind, guarding your thoughts, and even reshaping your thoughts in this season to see who you are, to redefine who you are, to understand on a deeper level who you are, who you're called to be, and who you belong to, and what your real name is, your real purpose. We all work jobs to make ends meet or however you get your income. But it can never truly define who you are. And it's time for many of you in this season to come to discover who you are. And if that's known to you on some level, then it's time for you to walk in it at a far greater scale. It's important to understand these things. It's important to, as my father, who's from Ethiopia, would say, to have a hardwired cable connected between you and the Almighty God. Excuse me. And the word revelation means discovery. And it isn't often shared that way in, religious or church or even spiritual circles, but that's what it means. It means discovery. And let's break that down. The word discovery means to discover. Now I'm going to make my own little creative analogy here out of the word, but discovery, right? D-I-S, away from, and then cover, like when you're under the blanket and you pull back the covers so you can find out what's under the covers, right? And then there's the letter Y, so discovery, discover. Y stands for Yahweh, in my opinion. Discovery, to discover Yahweh, or to discover God, or to unveil. And it's not just God, but it's, in the principle, it's to unveil or to discover so you can see something that's been there the whole time, A lot of us are walking around in many areas of our life under the covers, and we're not able to see. And we've been living in a fairy tale world or just sort of a dream reality, trying to create that, or a pseudo world, I would call it. And when things like this happen, it sometimes shakes that pseudo world that we've all, lived in various areas. and causes us to have to, look at some things differently, or reconsider, or reevaluate, or make some real hard assessments, prioritize things, people, resources, situations, and you begin to find out what's really important to you, what's really valuable. You begin to sort of connect with that. And that's a good thing. You don't wish that bad things have to happen for that reality to be remembered consistently or to be remembered, but that's sometimes, the reality. And like, I really am feeling just happy. Just a piece of divine is on the inside. And I want to sing a song or something. I don't really know what to sing, but I'll tell you what, I was sitting here a few minutes, earlier, and just a little bit earlier, even before you decided to post, and I thought, it's kind of like two songs floating in my head, so I'll probably give a little sample, and you can look them up. You can look them up. There are, people with versions, professionals who sing these songs, but I love these songs, and they're two different songs. They don't even go together, like as far as on an album or the same artist, but in my spirit, they go together, because even the word says line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. You know what I'm saying? Comparing spiritual things with spiritual. And that's really the call of God, too, is that we're to be master painters. We're to pull from various elements within the creation to paint a canvas that would display a beautiful picture of our Father and of the world of heaven and the realities that lie beyond. Not beyond as in wait till you pass away, but beyond as in then this natural layer of existence, that there's something within us. We all have a spirit that is calling us to deeper waters and to greater heights of divine consciousness and love, and to live on the side of awareness and reality of the truths that he's bled for and gave his life for, and a lot of other people, men and women, who died for us to have an opportunity to live in this day and age with the knowledge of the divine. It's really important. And so the first song is called Refiner's Fire. And I first heard it on Wow Worship, like from the 90s, or Wow Gold, but there's probably tons of artists that do it. I want to say it's, what's his name, but forgive me. I do know the artist, but I can't think of it right now. So let me just, it just says, purify my heart, let me be as gold and precious silver. Purify my heart, let me be as gold, pure gold, refiner's fire. My heart's one desire is to be holy, set apart for you, Lord. I choose to be holy, set apart for you, my Master, ready to do your will. Purify my heart, let me be as gold and precious silver. Purify my heart, let me be as gold, pure gold, refiner's fire. My heart's one desire is to be holy, set apart for you, Lord. I choose to be holy, set apart for you, my master, ready to do your will, oh Lord, ready to do your will, ready to do your will, oh Lord, ready to do your will. Yeah, refiner's fire. You know, it's just, I believe it's a scripture out of Malachi where he talks about he'll purify the sons of Levi with a refiner's fire and cleanse them with like a fuller's soap or launderer's soap, and that whole image of purification is, there's an image of the goldsmith and taking gold and throwing it in the pot under a fire, and the gold begins to melt. And you know, the thing about gold and the thing about purifying gold is that you gotta throw it under a fire and get it to a temperature where it begins to melt. It begins to purify any impure elements within the gold. And the idea is that the goldsmith, when it was all melted down to a liquid and stirred and given time to allow the pure impurities to rise up into a vapor, when the goldsmith would look down in the gold, he would see what? His own reflection, his own image. And so it is, you know, with us in this time as we're being purified and refined. I always say that when the Father comes to refine us and when the divine comes to purify us, when you're in him, it's not to destroy you as much as it is to reveal you. You know, I think about being a kid and even a young teenager, adolescent, going down in Los Angeles to downtown to Olvera Street, one of my favorite places to go as a kid. One of my best friends is Mexican, and we go down there and fresh made churros and, you know, fresh asada burritos and the fresh culture of España, you know, Mexicano, and even more cultures as well, but primarily Mexican. And just one of my favorite things to do, after we had a chance to get some snacks and food and absorb some of the culture, maybe buy some wristbands or bracelets or chains or whatever, we walk over to the glass shop, and you see the glass maker, and he'd have his his helmet on with his fire gun, and he'd have some different blocks of like samples of things that he could do set up. But then he'd also have just different blocks that were just squares. So on one side was like samples of what he's done, and on the other side was like just squares. And so somebody would say, hey, I want a dolphin. And so the glass maker would take a block, and then he would begin with his different tools. Fire in one hand, maybe a sculpting tool in the other. And it would begin from memory to sculpt and melt, sculpt and melt, sculpt and melt. And I would just sit there in amazement and watch that process unfold, to go from a glass block, a square, to a beautiful set of dolphins gracing over a canvas of water. And then he would give it to the customer, and they would just have such joy. And I thought, wow, what an amazing gift to be able to take something out of nothing and carve it into something very specific. And it began to remind me of what I believe the divine does with our lives. Even though right now we might just feel like a square or a block and not of nothing, not even sure what we're supposed to do in life. You know, you keep going to school and keep on getting more education and certification, and that's wonderful, and you may find some level of fulfillment in that. But even ultimately beyond that, in your heart of hearts, you're like, what am I supposed to do on this earth? You know, beyond a 9 to 5 or beyond what I need to do for an income. What am I supposed to be doing in this earth? it is most ultimately connected to who am I and who is the divine, because you can't answer who you are without answering who the divine is. You're inseparable. And though there was a division at a time, the reunion has been made possible through Yahweh, Yeshua, and we got to come into the knowledge of that and receive the beautiful, wonderful benefits that are for all people of that beautiful transfer, that beautiful exchange. And so I said there were 2 songs. So I'm going to give that one real quick, and I'm going to share a few scriptures. I may break this up into 2, but for now I'm going to just keep flowing. And the second song was by Andre Crouch. I know that, so you can look it up and his wonderful version, probably other people who've made wonderful versions as well. And I'm just going to do the chorus, but he says, through it all, I've learned to trust in Jesus. I've learned to trust in God. Through it all, I've learned to depend upon His word. Through it all, I've learned to trust Yeshua. I've learned to trust in God. Through it all, I've learned to depend upon His word. I've learned to depend upon His word. I've learned to depend upon His word. In the next segment, I'll be sharing scriptures on guarding your thoughts. CZLG, Yahweh bless.